WNST, Tassel or not, certainly this week with Justify and the odds-on favorite. But this is also one of my favorite guys, and, we see him at the Super Bowl, and we made a little visit that you can find out there in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault or, of course, on our YouTube WNSTV channel. He is really a stalwart of the Preakess Stakes barn each and every year, wandering around and looking at the beautiful animals. He is Kenny Mayne of ESPN and the worldwide leader. You can follow him out on Twitter at Kenny_Mayne out of the fighting city of Seattle, Washington. And Kenny, you're not making the Preakess this year. This is maybe one of the first years in a long time I haven't seen you around here. I know you're doing a little charitable turn out in the desert with Jared Allen, but you're missing a chance at a little piece of history. Now, you know this horse is going to win a Triple Crown. Now you're not coming, right?
Yeah, well, we were there for American Pharoah, so Gretchen came to that one as well, my wife. But yeah, it just wasn't going to work out, and this thing came up with Jared Allen. It all just timed out to not be there, but I obviously watch it on TV. Jared raises money for soldiers to build homes, especially those who need some wheelchair assistance or special, unique setup for what happened to them in the wars. So I think he's been doing great stuff with that for a long time, and he's one of my favorite guys ever. So I was happy to be out there with him. I
saw him promote that at the Super Bowl with Wounded Warriors and all that stuff as well. So for the race and for the Derby and for where we are, and I guess at 50,000 feet when I talked to Bob Baffert, I asked him about this. We all waited all of our lives, right? After Secretariat and the Seattle Slew affirmed Aladar thing for another Triple Crown winner. Has horse racing, grown through this? I feel like here the race is more vibrant than it's been. The bands, I think the Stronach Group and Magnus done a nice job. I think it's very obvious they're trying to get this thing to Laurel, but it's still out at Old Hilltop. 140,000 last year, and it feels vibrant, more so than maybe it did 10 or 15 years ago. And the industry, to me, when I put the Derby on and I see where these horses are coming from and the star power and young jockeys and a Chad Brown, it feels like it's still hanging in there. And guys like you and I that love it, I think we were a little worried about it maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know if American Pharoah winning the Triple Crown saved anything or changed anything that much, but it certainly brought a lot more attention. I mean, I just looked it up the other day. I think Handle went up last year. People have so many choices. They don't necessarily go out to the tracks as much. You don't see, the racetracks filled up except for the big events and except for the specialty meets, the Keenelands and the Del Mars and Saratogas and so forth. But yeah, I think those who go figure out how fun it is and come back. Like, you just got to go through the whole experience. It's one of those things you can't just watch it from afar and be into it. You have to go live it and see the whole thing play out. And I see a lot of young people at the track. I mean, heck, like you said, Preakess week, and go out to Keeneland sometime in Lexington, Kentucky. It's filled with young people. So I'm still optimistic about the sport. And the thing is, it's never going to overtake the NFL or, and neither is hockey. But those who love it, and you and I are from an age where it was a bigger deal then. It's funny though with the Triple Crown, it's weird now how we wanted it, but now it's kind of like looked upon with disfavor when there's such an overwhelming favorite, right? Like some people are like, it's Justify is going to win easy. That's no fun. So as opposed to celebrating his greatness, but I do think he will win.
Well, and I think there's a part of this for Baffert and these horses taking time off to chase him. And look, Chad Brown never comes back in 2 weeks. It's kind of like in the era of Earl Weaver having 4 starters. He wouldn't recognize some parts of this, right? A generation later. And I think that's the same thing for the horse racing industry, where they're trying to do more for these animals. You want to keep these animals alive and and not have tragedies involved. That giving these horses some room to breathe. Look, I've talked about everything here over 27 years, and you've been doing my show for, 15 years now, where is the race going to leave here and go to Gulfstream? Is it going to go to Santa Anita? Are they going to move 3 weeks or 4 weeks back or move these things out to give more horsemen and more chances? It has suffered the Preakess a little bit in that the fields are always down. It's 2 weeks. No one wants to risk their animal, especially if there's a special animal. So, I tip my cap to Chad Brown for bringing good magic in here, because without good magic, we'd really have a lopsided race here on Saturday. But that is one of the downsides of the Preakess, that they load up to go after the Belmont, because that's more natural to give a horse 5 weeks off, especially a 3-year-old that probably needs a little bit more time.
Oh, yeah. No, certainly. I'll tell you what, I don't know about, you mentioned a couple things there, but I don't know where the thing ends up. Does the race move, or do they fix the place up, or what? I couldn't predict it, because it's only been talked about since we've known each other pretty much, right? I think that's always been a little bit of a discussion where there was the thread about how the state would, allot race dates and so forth, and all these different.
Well, this is before we had slots and all that, and obviously
True.
Monday, I mean, I'll get to that later in the conversation, but the world has changed dramatically in so many ways, and yet we're still out of Pimlico this week, and we're worried the lights are going to go. Literally, I mean, that's where we are. That can't hold forever, right? It just can't.
Well, I guess, I'm a visitor to the region. I come once or twice a year to that part of the country, but I've always liked it, and I've always kind of felt at home there, so it feels a little bit apart, and certainly a big part of my life. I mean, you and I, how many rooftop conversations have we had for, I think it's more like 20 years. I don't think it's 15 years. So there's just a special sense of place there, and the history go all the way back to, Seabiscuit racing there and Warrenville. But I certainly wish they could find the solution so that we wouldn't have to have this question every time, and it would just be a known fact. Nobody's questioning that about Churchill, and nobody's questioning that about the Belmont. But one thing to keep in mind is, however it ends up, if you go way, way, way back in history, it wasn't always the way it is. It wasn't always the Derby on the first Saturday of May, followed by the Preakess, followed by the Belmont 3 weeks later. There was a disorder to it. It wasn't even called the Triple Crown. The Triple Crown was sort of a made-up thing after the fact, after Sir Barton won all three. Hey, let's call that the Triple Crown. He did those three things. So I guess what I'm saying is, whatever result it ends up, it's not like the entire universe has been thrown off, because it would be almost going back to the way it was somewhat out of order and staged in different places. But if I have a vote, it stays where it is, and they figure out a way to make that place better and figure out how to carry it forward.
He is Kenny Mayne. He's Kenny_Mayne out on Twitter. And, of course, you find him from time to time on the Worldwide Leader, sometimes making you laugh, sometimes making you cry, and sometimes just giving you some highlights. Missing the Preakess this year, but one of the biggest horse racing fans that I know, really, truly a fan, not just a media guy and a former college quarterback and a TV guy, but like a guy that reads the form and loves racing and follows it on a year-round basis. And, the one thing about Laurel that I saw here, Ken, I went down on Derby Day, and we looked up on the TV, and we were very happy to not be in Churchill in the mud. And Laurel, they've really cleaned the place up. They've made it nice. It looks Vegas-y. This New Jersey situation with the Supreme Court, Kenny, you and I can get in a car and go to Monmouth and bet on or against the Yankees or the Orioles a week from Monday. Like, literally, that's how close they are to having this thing set up. And the Supreme Court getting involved in this, I don't know what it means for any of these sports, but at 100,000 feet, when Mark Cuban and Ted Leonsis are putting out press releases saying my business might have just doubled, I think they're a little smarter than me, and I don't think it's hyperbole, and I don't know if they're going to get the percent of the action that Roger Goodell is looking for, and I don't know what it does to undermine officiating or put officials in some sort of harm's way with gambling and money. But the world's about to change here. I don't think there's any doubt about this. This is a tectonic. This is the lava coming out of the volcano in Hawaii. I don't know who's going to win, but somebody's going to get a huge piece of this money, including a lot of states.
Well, there's certainly more action. I don't know that it's going to destroy society in the same way. I mean, I live in Washington State half the time, Connecticut half the time, and marijuana is legal out in Washington State. There's shops, different places. It really has not changed things, to my knowledge, and you still drive around. People are still going to work. Oh, there's that store. People are buying pot. Like, life goes on, right? I mean, it didn't turn things upside down.
Well, I always think of it like prohibition. Like, literally, that would be the same thing. And when something's that new, kind of freaks everybody out. And, going behind my seat in 513 and betting whether Joe Flacco is going to pass or run on the next play, I guess we'll get used to it, right?
You know what? I do 100% agree that it's going to be like, whoa, we got this new toy. This is so bizarre. And now we got smartphones, and we can just do it that way. Yeah. I mean, will it be different and a little weird at the top? Absolutely. But I don't think it's going to turn life upside down. I think, the thing that people forget is, why do you think the NFL is so popular in the first place? Everybody has a fantasy team. A lot of people are betting games. They have friends. They got a guy somewhere. They got a guy offshore, Las Vegas. They go somewhere. So people's behavior is changing only in the market that they now join. Were already betting on football. Now they're going to bet it legally if allowed at, these different state venues. And I think the leagues who join in and just kind of accept reality, a really good example is ESPN. For many, many years, we were like screamed at if we ever mentioned gambling or a line or you can't do that, you'd get this look like you're about to get fired. Now, Scott Van Pelt, one of our most popular shows, that's all they do is talk about gambling. And it was sanctioned by the company. Let's just be real. We know that men and women are out there betting on games. Why don't we just talk to them about it? Let's have a thing called bad beats. Let's talk about the worst gambling loss of the day. And so once his show got real about what people do and how they behave, it's gotten a good audience. And I think they're getting a good audience partly for their honesty. Cool, man, they're acknowledging that I had action on the Knicks tonight, So it's just kind of coming into the world. I don't think it's the destruction of our morals or society's falling apart. It's just kind of recognizing in a legal way and an above-board way that, people bet on games.
They don't watch Van Pelt for the gambling. They watch him because he a Terp. Come on, you know that, right?
That too, yes, Maryland.
Hey, Kenny Mayne is here, not in Maryland, in New York, headed out to Arizona. How many Preakesses have you been to? 25? I mean, literally, has it been that many?
I think, let me think. I'm trying to. Yeah, I mean, right?
Ish, right? Yeah.
20, probably, yeah. See, I mean, I did some, the one, I can't remember if this was the first one, but I was at the one where the power went out.
I was going to mention that.
Hours.
That was the day the whole thing began with, you couldn't wager. I mean, I was out on the infield that day doing all sorts of things that we can't talk about, and I'm glad there aren't pictures of. There was no video. There was no camera then. There was no electricity.
Yeah.
But at that point, I think we all started oh, my God, they lost a fortune. They've lost their credibility. They barely got the race off. The race isn't going to stay here. The track isn't going to stay here. And then we followed it up with a guy trying to punch a horse. And then we followed that up with...
He tried to punch Artax, I believe it was, in the middle of the sprint race in the undercard. I was on the roof for that one. And thank God I got my money back. Remember they had just a crazy ruling. The steward, the steward's job is to do what is the most fair thing, right? Whatever that is. They can change the order any way they want. It's not like football, 15-yard penalty. There's a rule for that. But in horse racing, the stewards, they have to watch what happened and go, what's the best thing that we can do to make the end result be the fairest thing that could have been based on what happened? But they didn't expect a man to jump on the track and take a swing at a horse. So hopefully that guy's doing all right.
Yeah, all you have to do is Google Preakess punch horse, and it just kind of pops right on up there.
It was something.
Hopefully
the crazy thing was seeing it with my own eyes, because I was watching with binoculars from the roof up there, and it just my brain couldn't compute everything. I was like, why is there a person on the racetrack? Then it was like, oh my God, there's a person on the racetrack, and then more ridiculously, he takes a right at the horse. But fortunately, nobody got hurt. They gave money back to those who they thought were most defended. The fairness issue. And I lucked out because I think my horse was about to quit in the middle of the stretch anyway. But I kind of got in on that deal about he interfered with some horses. So.
Kenny, it was 19 years ago today. I just Googled it. It was May 16, 1999. So there you have it, Lee Chang, and you can read all the legal ramifications out on Google as well. At least everybody lived, and you got your money back. For you with Justify, you can feel a little left out if this horse wins a Triple Crown and goes to Belmont, but I think we're all expecting to leave the track. What this horse did in the Kentucky Derby with the speed on the front end, beating everyone in the rain, in the slop. Kenny, it's going to rain cats and dogs the next 3 days here leading up to the race. There's going to be a lot of wet on the track, and there's no reason to not love this animal on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit of luck. He has to break and not stumble out. But once he does that, if he does that successfully, I don't see any change from the race. It might be easier. I think he'll either just go to the lead or sit off whoever wants it and press his button and take off and win. I think Bold Door was a great horse, great 2-year-old foundation. Would have been a scary, but that one seems to be worn out from it all. My only fear about Justify is that when is the toll going to show up? That is a lot of racing in a short time, even if he had the 2-year-old foundation. And the fact that he didn't, God knows, maybe this time around, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he's so fresh, he's just still learning and getting better. I can't answer for him, but he's the best one in the race. You got to figure out a way to make something off it by pairing him with somebody longer underneath. I just read, I think I'd missed this, Hank Goldberg, he had cloud computing last year. I think I missed that whole thing. Like and had him in a big way. He maybe just listen to Hank. Whenever he says as the backup horses, you put him underneath.
Isn't it funny that we can talk about horse racing and have forever, going back to Clem Florio 30 years ago on this show, and we would say, yeah, my buddy Hank had him. He cashed a fortune. Dick Girardi came on. He has justified 40-1, bet him back on February the 18th, and he's been kidding Baffert and has admitted Baffert's got him at 300-1, and everyone talks about like having money on these races, kind of like, being in Trump's pocket with Cohen and saying, yeah, I got a point and a quarter on the VIG on all that. Like, it's cool, but we can't talk about football that way. We can't talk about the NBA that way. But we're about to go into that period of time where Van Pelt's going to be like, oh, yeah, I had 500 on the, the safety in the Super Bowl, and I cashed 20-1 on that. So
I'm for it. I think, I can't talk. I just saw Scott yesterday, and we were talking about this very subject, and he thought the same way as I, that, once, again, marijuana is something people were doing that was illegal. They're now letting people out of jails, who are in there for these minor offenses now that it's legal in certain states. So it's the same thing with gambling. It was being done, but if it's being done to excess, that's where it's a bad thing. But that's true with anything, right? That's true with alcohol or any other such thing that people do that is legal. Some things, you do have to watch it. You can't gamble every day, every minute, and not pay your mortgage. So obviously there's going to be those people, but most people are going to keep. That's our dog. That's our dog named Muller, by the way.
What kind of dog do you have? What kind of dog is that? I love animals.
He is, what is he called? A Bernedoodle. He's like 9. He's a Bernese Mountain Dog, Labrador.
That's a big dog.
Cocker Spaniel. He's about 30 pounds right now. He's getting bigger. Gretchen's walking him out. I was stumbling getting there because he was barking so much I couldn't concentrate. But my point is, obviously, anything we legalize, we would all hope people don't do it to such an excess that it turns their life upside down, right? But you could say the same for many vices. Name the long list.
I used to feel that way when I went to Bowie back in the day and betting money I didn't have, right? So we've all had that going on, dude. I love your visits, man. I appreciate you coming by, man.
I used to bet on horses more than I should back when I didn't have money. Now that I'm doing better, it's just a little thing I do for fun. It's like somebody goes out and has a drink. I like to go out to the track. So hopefully most people handle the new gambling laws with that attitude and don't do it more than they were doing it illegally. Now it's legal.
And don't think you're going to make money on Justify Saturday unless you have an exact or a triple that figures something out, right?
Yeah, well, sometimes it's fun just to enjoy it. You can win money betting a pick 3. Find the horses in the race before and the race after, and he's your single in the middle. So, there's a whole bunch of ways to monetize and maximize the profit off a very solid horse that looks like a sure thing. There's ways to play around it, or just watch it and have fun.
Is Kenny Mayne a sucker for the pick 6?
I do it. No, I would say I'm not a sucker for it. I never hit the thing, so I
then you're a sucker for it.
I just don't bother with it. And I'd rather put it into straight bets or pick 3s or whatever else that are easier to hit. Because by the time you add up all your combinations, it's so expensive. It wipes out most of the money you were going to gamble with for the whole day. It's like, do I really want to put in $812 to probably not win this bet like that? I don't know. I'd rather go play craps.
Well, you want to cash a ticket once or twice during the day to at least make yourself feel smart. So, Kenny, take care of yourself. Run between the raindrops out there in Arizona. You'll be watching the weather here, and hopefully a really good animal and a great story that will lure you and I to Belmont on June the 9th, which would be a fun little bus ride for my crew down here. So, take care of yourself. Always appreciate the visits. Hello to Gretchen and the Bernese Mountain Doodle thing you have out there, and tell Jared Allen we said hello out there in the desert. All right.
All right, thank you.
Kenny Mayne, the main event. There he is, Kenny_Mayne out on Twitter as well as at the worldwide leader at ESPN. And my friend Kenny Mayne, who's always so gracious with us and always loves talking about not only his animal, but the animals that they breed to run around the little track out at Old Hilltop. Preakess 143 ahead, full coverage out in the buy at Toyota.com. Audio vault 24 hours a day. From anywhere in the world on your mobile device, you can listen. If you missed the beginning of Kenny Mayne, if you want to hear Bob Baffert or Donna Brothers or Lafitte Pinkai or Randy Moss or Stan Salter or Marty McGee or Dick Girardi or Ray Pollock, any of the incredible experts we've had here on horse racing, just go to the buyatoyota.com audio vault. It's also all at the WNSTV channel on YouTube, as well as on our Facebook Live on my Facebook page as well. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. We stream everywhere around the world, and I am a very available individual for all praise, compliments, and even a little bit of criticism and damnation. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore sports.